Welcome to Beer Bourbon Games. I'm your host, Chris. Today we are at Starview Brews, and the owner slash head brewer, Mike, was nice enough to sit down here with me. So we're just going to start off with something extremely easy. Can you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into brewing?
My first introduction to homebrew was 1978. My brother Bill had bought a can extract kit and actually made a lager. It was a European lager with the kit. And I was amazed at how you could actually make beer at home. But my brother is the one that generated the interest first in me learning how to brew beer. My father always made homemade soda in the 70s. We had done that. But several years later, I think it was around 84, 85, shortly after I bought my home in Starview, which is where I live. Starview is actually a little town outside of Mount Wolf. It's about 15 minutes north of Columbia, but it's on the York County side.
Okay.
And about that time, I went up to a place called Scotts & Brothers up in Lemoyne. They had some basic kits, and I had an interest in learning more. Bought a kit, tried making the beer at home, and tried 3 batches, and they tasted terrible. At the time, I didn't know what I was doing wrong. It turns out several years later, I refinanced my house and found out my well water was contaminated with bacteria. And as a beginning brewer, you do a partial boil. You're boiling maybe 2 gallons with the extract, and then you mix in your tap water. So besides adding yeast, I had bacteria that was going into the first batches I made. I figured out why I was making bad beer. So then around 91, I thought, I'm going to try this again. And cleaned up the well water, took care of that, and then started making some good beer. And started getting the magazine Zymergy. Bought the book, The Joy of Homebrew by Charlie Papazian, who a lot of us early homebrewers, that was like our Bible. Charlie's kind of considered the father of homebrewing in the United States because he's taught a boatload of people. And I thank him for writing The Joy of Homebrew, which is what really opened my interest in horizons and to get into making beer.
I was going to say you are one of the newest kids on the block as far as breweries, but from when I was here before, I learned that you've been doing this for quite a while now. Can you tell people a little bit about your history of like where you've been brewing before you opened up the tap room?
Yes, so my home in Starview, I have a 2-story wood shop that was designed to build my kitchen cabinets. Well, I got into homebrewing. I never got the kitchen cabinets built. So, when I got seriously into that, I had a nice place to actually brew, that I wasn't in the house and messing up the kitchen like when I first started. My wife was glad to see me. My wife Jackie was glad to see me out in the wood shop brewery now. So that's actually where I developed a lot of the recipes out there. Me and 3 other home brewers, Jeff Shumsky, Jeff and Becky Kelly, we formed the York Area Home Brewers Association. This is around 1993, and then the club would meet in my garage once a month. Try our latest home brews, and we actually entered in some national competitions for the club. 94, I took first place at the national club competition, Hell to Hell. And that was the Colombian Red IPA recipe that I serve here today. That was patterned after Sierra Nevada Celebration Ale. Those are what I consider the balanced IPAs of the 90s. There were a lot of red IPAs that had a nice dose of hop for bitterness, hop flavor, hop aroma, but they also had a caramel malt to go with it, hence the red IPA. Those IPAs are usually my favorite go-tos because it's not just all about bitterness. Okay. You got some malt sweetness in the beginning, followed by some bitterness, but then hop flavor and aroma in the beer. I will say, though, I've become a fan of the New England IPAs. I like how they accentuate the hop flavor, aromas. Those are nice, and they're also lower alcohol, a lot of your New Englands. So I have become a fan of those styles as well. But yeah, I got very active. Our club got very active. I launched a contract brewing company. It was called Starview Brewing Company. I came out with that in '95. I had a beer in the market called Chickies Rock Cream Ale. And I had that contract brewed in Dubuque, Iowa by Dubuque Brewing Company. They were doing it in 100-barrel batches, which turned out to be about 1,380 cases of beer. Then I had that shipped into my wholesale distributors here, and I'd go out in the market and work on selling it. So that was some of my early roots in brewing. I worked at that for 3 years, and I was working on opening a brewery in Marietta. There's an excavation company there now. If you drop down the hill going into Marietta from Columbia, it's actually right along the rail trail today. There was a building there. I had an investor bought the building, and then we were going to renovate that and put a brewery in. Problem was, that was probably about $1 million project back then. The money it would have taken to do that job, I couldn't raise enough through investors. I had a king's dream and a pauper's budget, is what it turned out to be. So after trying to do that project for several years, I gave up. It wasn't going to happen. And of course, this is way before all these other breweries were popping out. Very early on. I mean, I started a contract company when Trogue started, and Victory. So that's just to give you an idea of the timeline. That's about when I started the contract brewing company.
Well, you have a lot of history then in here, so it'd be really fun and fascinating for people to come and talk to you for sure. You've got a lot of knowledge, I'd say a wealth of knowledge for sure. You did say one of the first brews that you ever had was a lager, and right now I'm drinking one of your lagers. Do you want to tell the folks at home just about this beer, kind of what else they can expect on tap?
The Long Level Lager actually used to be my Hellas recipe, and it kind of morphed into a Dortmunder, because I upped the malt a little bit more in that beer, and the way I make it, a little bit more body than what you get in the Hellas, a little bit more residual sweetness with just enough hop to balance it out. Easy drinking, 4.7%. My one son's favorite beer used to be the lager, and he liked Miller Lite. I know a lot of people think, oh my God, Miller Lite. The beauty of that beer is I enjoy the Long Level myself. I can sit and drink 7. Very easy drinking. Alcohol's not too high. It's a good beer to have somebody that's used to drinking just regular American beer to try. But the beauty is I find people who've been drinking craft beers for years that still love the Long Level. It has a lot of broad appeal.
I would say the lagers seem to be coming back. There is a lot of revival, especially in one of my local breweries that I go to. They're slowly turning into a lager house, it seems, and this one's very good. I'd definitely say this is a gateway beer for sure, or someone that's kind of tired of the New Englands and just want a break from something. It's very refreshing to go back to something like this. It does have a nice body, nice sweetness for sure. No malt characters there, so definitely a really well done brew. I highly enjoyed it. I know the first time I was here I had it, so we're glad to have a full glass this time instead of just the tasters that I had. You did mention a couple of times the word club, and that was in regards to Brewing Club, but we have a mug sitting in front of us. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this?
The Mug Club is something I used to see up at Perdome's. The Rising Sun used to do a mug club. Something that always interested me, forgetting when I got the pub open. I look at the Mug Club as a good way for your loyal customers that come in regular. If they join the Mug Club, they get a custom-made club, as you see here. It's a nice, stout-looking Stein type. These are made right behind the wall of the bar. There's a gentleman that rents space back there from a landlord. He's a potter, and he actually spins these back there.
Nice.
So I had him work on the design because I couldn't have a mug that held 24 ounces. I didn't want people having too much at one time per mug. But they hold about 18. So he really refined a nice design of the mug. And right now we're a little over 100 mugs in the Mug Club. And we just opened up the end of January. But what that allows is people to get happy hour pricing on their beer all the time. So it's more of a loyalty to the customers that come in here pretty regular, because they get their custom-made mug, which is numbered, and they get a t-shirt when they join the Mug Club. And of course, then they get happy hour pricing all the time.
Is that something that they do once per year, or is it a lifetime membership?
That's all once per year.
Okay. And what is that cost for someone
It's
that wants
$75.
Okay. And does it go from when you sign up, or is it like it starts in January and it goes to January?
When you sign up, I've been tracking when they sign up. That way they're getting a full year.
Besides the Mug Club, another cool thing that you're also in right now is the Lancaster County Brewers Guild.
Mm-hmm.
You joined that. You're a part of the Passport. They unfortunately have sold out everywhere super quick. I don't think they really thought there was going to be quite the demand that they were.
We did not expect, no. And Ryan and Rob, a couple of guys in the guild that pretty much had that up, they did an excellent job putting that together. Ryan's at Poorman's. Rob is at our town brewery. I like how the guild came together to promote us, all us Lancaster County brewers.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people, I had people coming in the Passport didn't know I was here, and vice versa for them going to other different breweries. This way, people get a good idea of what's in their backyard.
You are relatively new, but you have been at this for a while. So what really is your vision for the brewery moving forward?
My next vision, we got to get the kitchen open.
Okay.
That is going to be our focus here. I definitely want to be open in June. There's a great car show right in front of us here. It's called Thunder on the River. It is June 18th. They get all kind of muscle cars, antique cars, show cars. They shut down from 2nd Street here on Locust Street all the way up to 462. And you can just walk around and take in the beauty of all the different, if you're into cars and Motorhead type cars, this is an awesome show to go to. And it's called Thunder on the River because at 12 o'clock everybody fires their engine up and revs it. And I first experienced that, it was June of 18 or 19, actually June of 19 I believe it was. Or not, might have been 18, I forget anymore. But I wasn't even aware they had that show, and they had the street shut down. It was right in front of here. So for Thunder on the River, which is June 18th, we're actually going to open up at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Ooh.
Because people start lining up, setting up early. We're going to be serving Bloody Mary specials. We'll be making breakfast sandwiches. But I highly recommend that if you're a car buff, come out to the show. It's a great one they put on in here in Columbia.
There's a lot of really cool stuff located around here. Obviously, that event is not something I was aware of because I don't come this way too frequently. We've got the bridge bust. We've got a lot of antiques around here. So there's a lot of reasons to come up to this area and then always stop in and get a brew while you're in the area, which is good. I know running a kitchen can be a nightmare, but it's something that a lot of places desperately need because people want to drink and eat at the same time.
Fortunately for now, we have Parma Pizza 2 doors beside us. They've been a big help that somebody can call and order in from the bar and they deliver it right to them at the bar without leaving their seat. My wife was a kitchen manager at a school cafeteria. She just retired in October. So she's going to be heading up managing the kitchen, making sure everything's run proper in there. So I do have an advantage having her in there. She's definitely a godsend here, even though we're learning to work together, which has its ups and downs, but it's been going well. She's been a godsend here for me.
That is definitely a pro because a lot of people are like, I just brew beer. That's what I want to do. I don't know that side. It's a completely different world.
And that's half the hard thing for me. Used to doing a lot of things by myself, growing the team here. Bringing other people in, because that's what it's going to take for us to grow. My goal is to, again, short term, get the kitchen going. Next step is we'll be expanding kegs to different bars.
Okay.
My goal is to actually grow into a production brewery. Now, we'll be limited to production we can do out of this facility, but that's my long-term goal, was my long-term goal in the 90s. But what I learned from the 90s is I got to grow in steps. It's got to go in stages. I can't try and grow from here to here. Got to do it in stages.
Very smart. Speaking of your production, what equipment do you currently have for your brewery? What size barrels, how many fermenters, stuff like that? All the nerd things I like to call it.
The good nerd things. It's a 3-barrel stout system. It's an electric brew house. I can push about 3.5 barrels out of the batch. I have 3 single wall, 3-barrel fermenters that are in a walk-in cooler. So I can control the ferment in them from the walk-in. Then I have 1 7-barrel insulated on a glycol loop. Okay, that controls the fermentation in that one, so I can double batch in that one. There's already drop downs to add 3 more 7 barrels on the glycol loop. I can easily add 3 to 4 more single walls in the walk-in cooler. I have a 7-barrel bright tank because once I'm done fermentation, I cold crash the beers, drop the yeast, push the yeast out of the uni tank, and then I actually transfer it to the bright tank and I carbonate in the bright tank. That frees up my fermenter for the next brew, which is a way to accelerate production. And it takes about, I like to go 2-3 days in the bright tank and then I fill the kegs. You can actually finish conditioning the beer right in the keg. I don't filter any of my beers. All the filtering is cold crashing. The only clarifying agent I use is oil flock in the boil kettle. I don't use any gel. I don't use any clarifiers whatsoever. Cold will do the work for you. You just got to give it the time. And generally, most of my beers are about 4 weeks.
Okay.
Even my L's tend to be 4 weeks just because of cold crashing, dropping the yeast. It tends to work out that way for me.
Right now, I believe you have, what, 5 or 6 beers on tap?
I'm getting ready to put the 8th on.
8? Okay.
And I have 2 versions of the IPA.
Okay.
The one is called the River Rat Red. It's the River Rat Red IPA.
Okay.
Which was the first batch I tried of the Colombian Red IPA. Well, on the new system, learning the new system, my hop additions at the end stayed in the kettle much too long. So it changed the flavor aroma additions to more of a bitter addition. And that initial batch, my gravity came in a little lower. So I wasn't pleased with that. I adjusted, and the second one came out great, just like I was shooting for, the Colombian Red. Well, I was serving and pushing the Colombian Red to everybody. Well, I was getting low on that, and I put the River Rat on, expecting not such a good response. Well, it turns out I get 50-50 on that. Half the people like the Colombian Red better, half the people like the River Rat better. The River Rat's basically a drier, more bitter beer.
Okay.
So you're not getting as much malt sweetness in the beginning. But what you get coming through is the bitterness, not the hop flavor and aroma so much. But I got half the people going, I like that one better. So we're going to continue to do both. Going to offer them both.
How do you come up with the names for your brews?
A lot of the names here are centered around the local history. I'm a big history buff.
Okay.
As the Long Level Lager, naturally, the old canal system there. And you can see right there, that's the Bainbridge lock on that poster. The canal was an important part of the transportation system here in the 1800s. The railroad around here. My porter has a picture of the Chickies Iron Company engine on it. So a lot of my labels, like you can take a picture of all the labels I got out there, they're centered around the local history. What it used to be around here. Columbia was actually considered once, they were looking at making it the capital of the United States. Columbia, District of Columbia today, Columbia, PA. There was a time, I think it was the late 1700s or early 1800s when they decided to put it in D.C. And thank God they went down there. You know how messed up this place would be right now.
I did not know that, but that's a fun little fact about this area. What do we have coming up on as far as beers? What's in the fermenters right now?
Right now there's a Belgian wit that my assistant brewer, Mike Morrell, should be in. Kegging that tonight. And that's the next one coming up. Then there's a Doppelbock in the fermenter, which I got a cold crash at. I was only going to do that as a seasonal, but the response has been so good on the Doppel, I'm going to do it as a regular. I also got to brew another double batch of the alt coming up. I brewed a single batch of that one. That's also going over very well. Alt is a German ale. Alt means old in German. Okay. Meaning brewed as the old style. Before there was lager, it was all ales. Okay. And the Dusseldorf Alt, I really like that style. It has a little bit of malt character up front, but then you get a nice bitterness that kicks in the middle. But the way it fades and finishes at the end, it's a nice dry finish. It just Real great finish on the beer. I don't know if you haven't had that one yet?
I have not had that one yet, but I look forward to it.
That's what I have in my mug right now. I find myself when I have a beer here, I gravitate to that.
I look forward to all those, and I want to try that next for sure. Who would you say is your biggest influence in the beer industry?
I'd have to go back to my homebrew days. Charlie DePazy is the one that really put me on the interest, got me going down that road. He's since retired from the American Homebrewers Association, but that man did a lot to educate tons of homebrewers that went on to start breweries. And the organization they founded, the magazine Zymergy was a branch out of that, the American Homebrewers Association. So I would have to say he was my biggest influence when it came to brewing.
What would you say to someone today if they wanted to start homebrewing? What advice would you give them?
Buy the book, The Joy of Homebrew. Start reading. When I got into it, there wasn't a thing on the internet to look everything up. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of vast information on the internet today. Join a local club. Get involved with a local club. There's a lot of people that are beer geeks like us, very much into it. You can learn a lot through a local club too.
Now, we talked about an upcoming event as far as the car show that's coming up. Is there anything else that you have coming up here in the brewery specific that you wanted to talk about?
There is going to be working on getting a beer fest out here again. They had one here in 18 and 2019, I believe. It was called Rivertown Hops. They shut the street down and the beer fest was right out on the street here. The next year it was up at the Animal Rescue Center, I believe. But they're working on coordinating, trying to put like an Oktoberfest together here this year. I'm hoping that comes to fruition. It would be nice to have one right downtown again because it's great having it right out on the street. Kind of like Lidditz does downtown, only I don't know to that scale. But that is an event that we're looking at coming up here.
Are you going to be pouring at any other brew fests?
I haven't scheduled any yet, but yes, we will be doing more.
Okay.
Right now I'm getting a handle on operations and running everything here that we'll work into that later. That's more next stage coming up. But yes, I mean, I used to go to a lot of brew fests. It's a great way to intro people to the beer.
For anyone coming to the brewery, they don't just have beer. They have a cocktail menu. He was talking about kind of having Bloody Mary specials. Can you tell the people at home just kind of what else they can expect here at the brewery if they don't like beer for some reason?
We have standard well drinks. Okay, and now what we have here is basically Pennsylvania spirits that we make the mixed drinks with. Also Pennsylvania wines. My one friend Tony bartends here part-time, has a drink of his specialty. It's called a Tootsie Roll. It actually tastes just like a Tootsie Roll. So that's kind of one of the unique things on the menu. We offer a dreamsicle, of course your Orange Crush, and then we do a Starview Sunset, which is a twist on the tequila sunrise, hence the sunset.
Okay.
So that would be some of the mixed drinks, and then we have some Nestle wines here we offer. Renegade Winery, which is out of East Stroudsburg, PA. We have a Malbec wine from them. And we also have some Allegro wines in here that we offer. And of course we have your soda, your standard soda and stuff in here too as well.
Now, you did say that you wanted to open up the restaurant or food for maybe June-ish. What kind of items can people expect when you do that? Do you have any idea of what's going to be on your menu?
Yes, we're looking at specialty panini sandwiches. Gourmet flatbread pizzas that we're doing in convection of them. Soups. I'm a big fan of soups. I love to cook as much as I like to brew. I do a shrimp and scallop bisque, which is like a cream of crab, heavy cream base, thick, nice old bay flavor, rich with scallops and shrimp. That goes over very well. People have been eating. I did a seafood chowder along those lines that I've been doing for years. But with the price of crab meat and everything, it's gotten outrageous. So this shrimp and scallop bisque, my wife Jackie actually said she likes better than my seafood chowder. So we're offering that. I do a chicken chorizo chili. The chili shouldn't be just all beans. Chili should be spicy flavor, but with some heat, but the heat, it's not like setting your mouth on fire. Chili shouldn't be that way in my opinion. Do a Southwest soup that a friend of mine gave me a recipe. Mary Vanessa gave me that recipe. So we're gonna have a rotation of soups, plus real traditional Maryland style crab cakes. Key to a crab cake is it can't be imported red crab meat. It needs to be the blue crab,
Okay.
which is what you find in Maryland, up and down the East Coast. It's the flavor makes all the difference in the world in a crab cake. And it's more of an imperial crab cake, meaning broiled, no breading, very delicious crab cake.
It sounds like there's a lot to look forward to coming up here, both with beer and food and events. So I would highly recommend people come out to check this brewery out. If you've never heard of them, look them up online. I know they're on Instagram. How can people find you? What's your address? Are you on social media? All of that good stuff.
We are on Facebook. You just got to look up Starview Brews. We have a website on Google. Same thing, look up Starview Brews. Our address here is 224 Locust Street, Columbia. Our phone number is 717-681-8987. So, yeah, very accessible.
Do you have anything else you'd like to say to anybody here that is watching at home?
I would like to thank everybody for the response we've gotten here from the community. The support of everybody coming in. I mean, everybody kept saying, when you opening, when you opening, when you opening. I was in the window 3.5 years ago, coming soon. Soon took longer than I thought. In my head, it took 9 months. Well, it took me a lot longer than that to get all the work done. I was working a full-time job the whole time while I was working on this project. But just a big thank you to everybody for the support.
Unfortunately, a lot of things happened in those years. I'm sure the supply chains and everything else didn't help. So we're just thankful that you are finally open and serving beer and getting to live out the dream that you had so many years ago. So if you have not yet come out to their location, I came out the first time. I thoroughly enjoyed all the beers. I've already finished my one beer. I'm going to go have a whole bunch more. So it is very good stuff. Very classic recipes for sure. So come to enjoy something that might be a little bit different from what you are used to. If you're new to the channel, think about hitting the subscribe button. I want to thank you for watching. And until next time, guys, I'll catch you back on Beer Bourbon Games.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thanks, sir.